Show and Tell Boston, where we talk about all things art, all things Boston. Today we're having our Black Culture Conversation, Black Diaspora Conversation, funded in part by the Reparations Task Force Equity Alliance. Could I get everybody around here to go around, say your name and your ethnicity, or how you're part of the diaspora?
Peace. My name's Terry Borderline. I'm Haitian. You say Haitian American. Historically, it goes back to the Arawak and the African side, which is like, Congo and Senegal, but Arawak as in like Taino. So yeah, I feel like there's a I identify as a hodgepodge of sorts, but yeah, that's my people's Haiti. IET.
I'm half.
Hey.
What up? It's Cuban Mike, ethnicity, Black Latino, both parents Cuban. They escaped Cuban, was born in America, and that's pretty much how it goes.
What's going on? I'm Brandon Scales, and I'm a foundational Black American.
What it do? It's your boy Most Generous. Both my parents are Nigerian, but me and my siblings were born here in Framingham. But I grew up in Dorchester throughout the majority of my life.
Hi, my name is Mint. I'm African American, and I'm from Roxbury. So.
What's up? My name is Forte. Haitian American, and like my man Terry Borderline, I identify as like a mixture, a gumbo of, the indigenous Arawak, Taino, Caribs, and a lot of the West African cultures as well. So I'm still going through that journey myself, finding out. So, yeah, gumbo.
All right. Hey, this is John Monday. I'm straight from the motherland, straight from Congo, DRC. And I've been living in the States for about 24 years now, and it's been a wild journey. And here we are, discovering, enveloping, developing, and becoming more of us, me in this society. So I'm here to learn more and discover more.
Daniel Laurent, African American, I'll say, Roxbury, born and raised in different parts, but Roxbury's still home of the gods.
Home of the legends.
So first thing I kind of want to get into is like, how are you guys feeling about 2025? A lot of people would say that this is the year that like Black people should lay low. Some people would say that this is the year that we have to take a stand. We see the riots, the protests, everything going on. How are you guys feeling about 2025, and what role should Black people play in it?
I honestly feel like it's never a time for us to lay low. Like, we always have to go hard. So the time is now. We're here, and we need to show up and show out. That's how I feel. Every given moment.
I'll say, after the election, myself and so many others felt disappointed and hurt and angered and confused on choices that people intentionally made, right? Whether you voted or you stayed home, there was an intentional choice behind that. And I think there was a collective feeling of, all right, well, this is what people wanted, so God bless, right? And everyone have at it. However this plays out, we'll just sit back and eat our popcorn, right? And I think that happened, and that feeling was there for a while. However, I think us as people inherently, we are not evil people. We are caring, we're nurturing, and it's not so much ever for me, I don't think it's ever so much it was a matter of Black dominance, right? Even with Black power, it was we want to be treated fairly. We don't want to be discriminated against. We never necessarily wanted to be the dominant culture. We didn't want our thriving to be at the our thumb on someone else's neck for us to get forward. I say that to say where we're at. I don't feel like we have the luxury of sitting back, right? Because what ends up happening is these people, this group is discriminated against. treated unfairly, ripped out of their homes, it starts to then come over to us. And I think it's a collective reality check that people are seeing, because there are a bunch of people that identify however they classify themselves. But your skin looks like mine, and when you get pulled over, you're treated the same. When the police bang on your door, you are viewed the same. So I think that there's a collective trauma bonding that's happening. But even within us, and I'll end on this point, I think even within us, I just wrote a record called On Code, which is my most important record that I've ever written. And I feel like amongst us, as blacks, black people, there's so many splinters, and I feel like we can't get on code for anything because everyone has their idea and their opinion about how things should go, or this carpet isn't really red, it's cranberry, and it's just like, guys, listen. You know what I'm saying? If we're boycotting this place, we're all boycotting. I don't care that it's convenient for you to go there to get your pizza, right? Anyway, I digress, but I think that right now we don't have the luxury to sit back and just watch, because it is happening in real time, and it's a matter of time before it trickles over and affects you personally. So.
Would you guys, on a mass scale, agree that, do you guys agree with this opinion that if you guys aren't there protesting or at least giving your opinion against ICE raids, that you're not being on code?
I would say there's a false dichotomy with that. This idea that either you protest or you do nothing, right? And I think that's a fallacy. I don't remember the name of that fallacy, but it's there's a plethora, a whole spectrum of options and solutions between that. And the world looks to Black America. We're the leaders of the world. I don't care what anybody says. The moment we say Riz, not everybody's saying Riz, right? The moment we say swag, not everybody's, doing swag or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Even Trump, be trying to appeal to black people, let Larry Hoover out. You know what I'm saying? We moved the culture. We got to be real about that. And the reason it's even a controversy about how Black America is reacting to the riots or protests, right? Depends on how you want to look at it, right? Because people are divisive about that, right? Is that it? They expect us to do what they want, but it's important for Black America to have their own agenda, whatever that agenda is, right? Our own agenda, right? Because if we have our own agenda, then it doesn't matter if they send in, they do martial law and they send in ICE and things like that. We'll have a protocol on how to respond to that, right? And nobody can question how we responded to that because we have an agenda and we have a protocol. And so I feel like being on code or off code is kind of a loaded question, because it's what is the code? Do we have a code, y'all?
I was just about to mention that. I feel like there is a lack of even clarity on what the code is. So I like what you said about being on code, because I think a lot of us get lost in the sauce of just the emotionalism and just the sensationalism and the outrage, to where we just want to clock back in and go about our day. When it's I think to speak about the 2025, I think it's time for us to get back to us, just straight up, so then we can know how to even move forward. I think we've got so disconnected and diluted that we forgot who she is or who he is beside me, and to really connect to even get that code, really.
I'll say this: it's hard to even be on code or stay on code because we're not a monolith. The way I think of certain things, he thinks something different. So we're all on different pages on certain things. And as much as two things I've seen online, especially from the Latin community, and not only Latin, but a lot of people do this, the white community, Asian. It seems as though when they want to fight for a cause, they use us at the at the forefront to fight their battle. So they'll pat us in the back. One of the things I've been seeing a lot with the ICE thing, with a lot of Latin people that's passionate about the ICE thing, we're it wouldn't have been for black people, it would have been for this. It would have been for black people, and for that. And a lot of response I'm seeing from black folks is yo, we're always on the front foot. But when we had our fights and battle, y'all weren't showing up. When we were doing this, they ain't show up. When we did that, like, where were you when we were going through our issues? It's like, right now, ISIS is not our concern right now, because not only that, when you guys come to our community, you know, as much as white liberals say they're welcome, they don't ship them to your community. They ship them to us, and you take the little resources that we have. So it's been a very intense battle going on with the black and brown community. So it's hard to stay on code when we don't know what the code is. So it's a very, like my man says, a very coded, complex situation to be in, because it seems as though they're trying to use us to, you know, to fight their battle. And it's like, okay, once the mission is done, like, what are we going to get out of it? Are they going to be like, thank you, pat us on the back and back to your regularly scheduled program? Or it's going to be something when our agenda comes to, are you going to come up in the forefront? So it's very confusing.
Yeah, I see.
Can I build on that real quick? Great point. And it actually got me thinking, because, you know, I was kind of the one who brought up the question, like, you know, what is the code? But it's like, you know, specifically black Americans, right, have come up with the code, right? You have Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. You have Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. You have scholars and academics who have gone down this road before, right? Scientifically, psychologically, clinically studied racism, white supremacy. It's the only reason we can use these words, white supremacy. They coined them, right? And they developed a code. Right, and of course you have people like Tariq Nasheed, right, who he's a heavy follower of Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, of Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. That's where he built the foundation of the idea of white supremacy, and his documentary Hidden Colors. He was inspired by that, right, and he took it his own way to make FBA, right, or be one of the, you know, proponents of the FBA movement, which I have huge love to FBA, right. But it's that type of situation where it's like, we need a way for people to be educated about what the code is. Where are we teaching this code? Why aren't these books in schools? Why did it have to take until I was in my 20s to know who Dr. Francis Cress Welsing is, to read the ISIS papers, to read Dr. Neely Fuller Jr., right? And I feel like that's the thing. Like a lot of us don't have a code to follow, but it's because a lot of us have been miseducated.
No.
Well, well, so to the there's 2 points. Well, probably a few, but so with the monolith, right? That we're not all a monolith, which is absolutely true. But I think maybe a year ago, I got personally tired of hearing that, even though it's true. I think that we should be a monolith when it comes to certain things, and I think that because we know that and we see that, it's almost a badge of honor that we are not a monolith. And so in our community, we have everyone from Barack Obama to Lil Wayne to Flavor Flav to Tyler Perry to Oprah to Diddy. There's a lot, right? There's a lot. And those are just names, right? I'm not talking about local pillars and all that stuff, but we have... You know, we have a diaspora of folks, but I use the example all the time about when the boycott happened at Stashes on Blue Hill Ave, and the owner had called one of the customers. Can we swear? No. Yes. So yes. So when the owner called the one of the patrons a black nigger bitch. Right? And everyone was in an uproar, and it was whatever, and people were like taking videos outside and marching in front and all that. I would drive by and I would see people still go in, right? People that look like us still go in. Or even if we weren't going in, we were ordering from Uber Eats and DoorDash and Grubhub and all the stuff. And when I asked a couple of people, like, why are you doing that? Oh, you know what I'm saying? It's right next to my house. They got good pizza. And it's like, sometimes you have to walk, guys. Like, sometimes you have to walk 5 minutes extra in order to be on code. The Target boycott, right? People could feel whatever way they want to feel about it. What I typically hear from people is, we're boycotting Target. What about Facebook? What about Meta? Everybody's on Instagram. That's not how boycotts work, guys. You pick one place, one target, no pun intended. You focus on that, you make your impact, and you move on to the next thing. Even with the Target boycott, we cannot be on code to not go. Now, I know I speak from a place of privilege that I don't necessarily go to Target for my paper towels and my food, right? So for me, it's easy to not go. But listen, guys, this is what we're doing. Even if you don't want to do it, don't be the contrarian and go anyway. And that's what's happening, and that's what's frustrating, because we're not all a monolith. And just because they're boycotting Target, it's next door, yo, I'm going to go there after work. And we have to, if you believe in being on code, when your friends or family members do shit that's off code, you have to feel comfortable to call that out. Like, I've called people out in real time of like, yo, don't do that. And people have been like, you know what? That's real. I respect that. I'm not going to go. And that's my little part. I'm not saving the world, but that's my little part. You know what I'm saying?
Can I just say something real quick about the so first of all, the code is the complete dismantling of white supremacy. That's the code, because that's what's been injuring us for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 centuries. So that's the code, in whatever kind of way that comes. As far as being on code, listen, our people wouldn't have been able to get through the civil rights if we wasn't on code, right? Our sister Rosa Parks made a sacrifice and went to jail, and that is really what kicked off the civil rights movement, was the bus boycott. Now, if people had said, hey, I got to go to work, I need to take the bus, I got to take that number 3, I still need to get to work. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to get the, and some did. Yeah, and that's fine. But for the most part, no one took that bus. No one got on the bus. Everybody was on code, right? And so that's the important thing about being on code, is that when the collective sticks to one thing, no matter how much it inconveniences anybody else, no matter how much somebody else is bothered by it or inconvenienced by it, we all stick to that one thing. And, you know, no matter whether you're from whatever part of Africa you're from, or whatever part of America you're from, or whatever, you know, part of the Caribbean you're from, we all have that same mindset. And that's how we're able to affect change. That's how we're able to make things change. If they had, you know, gotten off code and been that monolith, right, then we wouldn't have never got the civil rights passed. None of those things would ever happen. And another thing that came from the civil rights was the 1965 Immigration Act. I mean, there's so many good things that came from everybody being on code. And so that's the important part about being on code. If you have a different mindset, you need to figure out, well, how can I change the way that I'm thinking? I have to change every day. I have to find things that I need to learn from and I need to grow from. I know that I don't have all the answers for every single thing. You know, sometimes I need to learn from my brothers. Like, my brother may come to me and be like, hey man, look, we're not going there. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? That's the only way I can get home. No, we're not going down that street. That's not the street we're going. We're going down, like, we going this way, but dang, that's the long way.
But to piggyback what you guys are saying, which is completely true. It's funny because I had a conversation with my boy about this a couple of months ago, and there was an issue going on in Florida where people want to, like, boycott a situation. One of the issues that we have, multiple things, but the two things I have in my head is, like, back in the days, they stood on code, but another thing they had, it was patience. Because I think with the boycott, it was like a year and a half before everything got dismantled, and then we got a chance to put the laws in the book. Because we're living in such a fast era, it's like we want fast results. So if, like, we boycott Target, we want it, like, in 3 days to make sure the stocks go down and that it go all fucked up. And not knowing we need patience. So we want Target to get shut down for whatever the case may be. It's gonna probably take a year or even 6 months to get everything completed. So we as people, we need.
I'm not interjecting, but it obviously. So yes, it took a year longer.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It was supposed to be, I think, like days, right?
Yeah.
But the on code mentality, it just lasted. So be it. So be it. And so to that point, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we need to learn to have patience. And I know we as human beings, we don't know how to be patient because, like, you know, I'm showing my age right now, but I come from the internet dial-up era, so we have to hear that. It took me an hour to get that download MP3. Nowadays,
you know, with
I got the wife, so I could get my song in 2 seconds.
You know, with the lack of patience, there comes lack of consistency, right?
Oh, yes.
So
oh, yes.
Within our culture, we just have to have that unity and that consistency, and I think we lack that. Like you spoke of Rosa Parks and the civil rights movement and how they stuck together. We lack that today in our community. Like, And you guys are speaking on that, but it's just something that this us right here, right now, this makes a difference. And if we
Yes.
had more of this, then there would be more unity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And that also comes to my question too, like, because a lot of my friends, I was talking to Shane earlier about, and he mentioned something that resonated with me, and it was about accountability. So, us as individuals of the community, where does accountability, what place does it, where does it fit when it comes to everything that's going on in the community? When we see our young kids going astray, or you see the system systematically destroying us or taking away our rights, or also you see just like traumas or generational traumas that are happening. Like where's the accountability that comes from within? Like how does that play in our roles?
If I can chime in, because you just sparked something for me. You know, I say this as a Haitian, right? I feel so many. I feel like people who are Black American, so-called African American, FBA, however you want to classify and identify them, right? They take accountability for what goes on in the United States for their community, right? They stay on code, so to speak, all the way back to like the civil rights. Now, the problem is, if I'm a white person, let's say I'm racist, right? And I want to systemically displace people that are on code, it's so easy for me to just find another Black person who's not from the United States, right? Right? And so a process then begins where it's just like, all right, y'all stay on code and don't shop at Target. We're going to bring in some Nigerians to shop at Target. We're going to bring in some South Africans to shop at Target. We're going to bring in some Haitians to shop at Target. And I see it happening. And we got to take accountability for that. We got to take accountability for that. How are we supposed to stay on code? How are we supposed to stay on code if we're taking opportunities, right, that displace or dispossess Black American natives of what they have and what they're standing for or what they're fighting for? You have something?
No. I wanted. It's interesting, staying on code or not on code. So for me, I feel far removed from it all. So for me, it seems very macro in a grand scheme of things. I've lived in America for 24 years, but I've always longed to go home, even though this is home to me. Part of it is because this is a very individualistic nation, and I come from a collectivist nation. And so that's just one. And then to build on that, it's hard to stay on code because nobody has ever fought for me. And for me, I mean, we all know, or at least some people know about Patrice Lumumba, right? People have heard about Congo like it's this far distant land. But at the same time, in every turn of the century, the global industry needed Congo for building the atomic bomb, from making tires, now with minerals. I mean, and so in every turn of the century, we're going back to Congo. But yet, you don't see people really in the streets at all protesting what's going on in Congo. I mean, I will always stand for what's going on in Palestine. It's wrong, right? I will always stand for that. I will always stand for what's going on here in America. It's wrong. And I am always involved, and I'm always informed, and I'm always, trying to understand what's going on a deeper level. But at the same time, my heart longs for my people that are hurting, that nobody is fighting for, that people are quiet because it's this far away land but that at the end of the day, it's going to feed them.
So is that why you feel so far removed?
Precisely.
Can I just say something real quick, dear brother?
Quickly,
So
fucking Leopold.
yeah, no. So I just want to say this, right? So I don't know, like I'll say here, like we've been fighting for black people all over the diaspora here. You know what I mean? That's like like. Excuse me?
Boston, you mean?
Oh, I mean like here in America. Okay. Here in America. Right.
Sorry to interject. The last person that truly did that was Malcolm X.
Okay, but here's what I'm saying though, right? And it wasn't just Malcolm X, but what I'm saying is that black people collectively fought for that 1965 Immigration Act, which a lot of black people from the diaspora came in off of that. Prior to that, all the immigration acts were all racist. They were heavily favored toward European immigrants, and I mean they even excluded Asians in 1924. That 1924 act. So people and after when we got the civil rights here, black people noticed that Immigration Act, and it wasn't just then, but even prior to that, they noticed that Immigration Act was very racist. And we wanted to see more of our brothers and sisters be able to come here from the nations that they were being denied entry into. We were seeing all these other European, I'm saying I wasn't even alive then, but I'm just saying our people, seeing all these other European immigrants being able to come here, and people who look like us from the diaspora was being denied. So we definitely, and black people here fought for the Immigration Act for people from the diaspora to be able to come here. Now, I would say like also in the Congo, I don't know what the population is there, but you know, and it's sad like all the colonization that's gone on in Africa, and it's actually been very tough for me like noticing that, because I always saw Africa as like, you know, just like a complete paradise, like a potential, like it's like the motherland, you know what I mean? So to see it being colonized the way that it is has been tough. But I also say that, you know, when you talked about accountability, Congolese people also have to take accountability for the things that are going on there as well. I mean, they also have to stand up and fight as well, and stand on it here. Here, black folks is being lynched, black folks is being hung, black folks is being burned alive, and a lot of us had to stand up and stand on business here, and we had to fight here. And so I definitely hear what you're saying, but you know, I just disagree with just a couple of those points.
Well, it's not about Congolese people not being accountable for themselves. That's a different story. It's really, I mean, you can't necessarily disagree with me feeling far removed, because this is the baseline of my point. And so you know, but I hear what you're saying, and the accountability that the Congolese have for themselves is true, that they must have that, but at the same time, those are my people. Those are right. Like, I have to think about the future of, not that you aren't my people, and you are my brothers and sisters, right? But I also have to think about the future of my people. When we're talking about millions and millions of people that have died already, we have to think about, okay, what is the future going to look like for the Congolese people? That's part of my burden. So that's why I feel far removed, because I have to think about that. Not me alone, right? There are many other Congolese people that are thinking about that. But like, so for me, my goal is to go back home, because this has never truly always felt like home to me, even though it is home, right? Like, this is home, but like, there's a place far away that is my home, and I've got to think about the growth and development of my people. And that's what has me feel far removed, but that doesn't mean I'm uneducated of the matters, that I'm not wanting to be involved, but that how can I continue to fight for these things that there are other fights going on at home with my people.
Who's going next?
Well, I was going to say real quick, I mean, I could kind of relate what you're going through right now because I got put in an interesting spot. I mean, I was born here in the States, and I first grew up with black Latinos, then I just moved to a primarily like Latino neighborhood, and it was Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, not too many Cubans, and then either or, I had to like adapt to like American culture, so I got more close to black American culture, so I could relate more to like the struggle that they were going to. But then, once I was trying to learn like my history, because mind you, I was born here with Cuban parents, but my parents never went to Cuba. They left and never came back, and I always asked what happened. So then they told me they weren't allowed to come back because they weren't allowed, you know, because they didn't agree with their politics, so they kicked them out. That includes my grandfather. I just finished burying my grandfather last year, and he died without meeting his grandkids. So I had to go through that issue. So, and then there's a real, we got put in an interesting spot because my man said, yes, black Americans had fought for African diaspora, whatever, but we got put in a weird spot because black folks, they have a strange adoration to Fidel Castro, and he gave this perception that he was for black people. As you all know, he got the famous picture with Malcolm up in Harlem. So he made it look like, you know, I love black people, but then what was going on in the island and the things he did to his own black folks was like beyond horrendous. You know, people don't even know that next to United States of America, Cuba had like the most black organization to the Western Hemisphere, more than Brazil, more than Jamaica, more than anybody. And Castro got in power, and he shut that down under the facade that, you know, I'm going to cure racism. So it doesn't exist anymore. When reality was, he know that black folks in Cuba could be a threat because we've gone to war with white folks over there, and we handled some business out there back in the day. So he destroyed all that. And, I mean, what I do with my platform, I mean, I don't only talk about Cuba, but I talk about black Cubans and the stuff they went through back in the days to now. Right now, I got to show that this black Cuban right now, he's in jail over a song that he did. He won a Grammy, and that song, even though he won a Grammy, it cost him 10 years right now, and he's still doing time. And at this moment, he's getting tortured, he's getting beaten, he's whatever you name it, he's going through it. So I understand what you're going through when you're saying you're far detached. I mean, how long was the last time when you went to Congo?
24 years.
So that's been 24 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents haven't been to Cuba in the last 40, and I haven't even been there, period. So I could understand what you're going through in that department. And I still want to know because I still have cousins that I haven't met yet.
Right.
So I get that part.
And just real quick, you know, I mean, this has become my culture as well, right? Like it has, right? Like I live here, I do life here, but the thing is, for you were able to get close to Black America, right? I in many ways had to fight to be accepted within Black America. I used to get beat up. I used to get beat up. I used to get called African booty scratcher.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's a common
Okay. I was never a part of the Black American culture. I had to fight, and I still feel like sometimes I'm not fully a part of it because there's this dissonance between Africans and Americans.
So what would you say is the wedge that is driving between how African immigrants or African Americans see each other, how they see each other, how they see their cultures?
So I'm gonna the organizers and the people behind the magic know, but I have like there's something else in the middle of, so I have to like get back to it. So I want to say this, and then respectfully I have to bow out. So I wanted to say this, right? So as someone who was born here, right, there was a certain detachment that I always felt because I didn't have Haitian heritage and lineage or Cuban or Dominican or Puerto Rican. I don't identify with Jamaican, West Indian culture, right? I don't feel like I'm not in that, and they're not my brothers, but I don't understand language. I don't understand patois. Like, eating, my wife loves Haitian food. I don't so much. Like, I can eat it, I guess, but like, you know what I mean? And so for me here, no. Well, all I know is "Mami dame beso," right? And that worked for me until it didn't, right? Yeah. But what I want to say to you is a few things. One, as a person that was born here, I always felt a sense of longing for culture, and that's what hip hop did for me. Right? And so even as I am today as an adult, I don't feel connected to hip hop because what has happened, it's almost heartbreaking. Right? So I want to say that part. So that is a common thread that happens amongst a lot of us. For people who I know who I'm really close with who are Haitian, they feel very similar when there's things going on back home and no one's talking about it, but when you look on the news, it's Palestine, and there are people who are withholding votes for Palestine, or people who are, protesting on campuses for Palestine. But what about Haiti? What about what's happening there, right? So for me personally today, I don't so much deal in hurt Olympics, right? Like the plights that black men deal with are a whole other stratosphere. It's not to say that they're more important than black women, right? So what I would say to you is I live every day by, a quote by Gandhi, be the change that you want to see in the world. I have that above my front door, so every time I leave out of the house, that's what I live by. And with that, there is 5 to 6 disappointments that I get every single day because most people don't subscribe to that. Most people are full of shit. The conversation me and you just had, I wanted someone to do that for me and to give me advice and to give me connections and say, hey, I can help you with this. Right? But most people are full of shit and they're selfish and they're individuals, and it just is what it is. But I would say for you to take that passion and you figure out your lane and being that change that you want to see. So maybe you are an advocate fit, right? Because I feel like there's a ton of nonprofits and it's way too many and there's overlap, and I have a bunch of feelings about that. But you be maybe an ambassador for. Maybe you are the person that when you're doing events and you're doing panels, you're speaking about this because you're educating someone else that had no idea, right? I think take that pain and channel that into a way of how can I be the change that I want to see in the world? Because I'm telling you in a real way, and it's not to diminish any feelings, if you talk to anyone, right? People have very similar things of, I don't feel represented. Why am I? We started this with black people fighting right now. Exactly what happened with Fidel Castro, we're seeing it play out with Trump, where people felt like he was going to be the one. He was better than Harris, and I'm going with him because Biden's full of shit. And guess what, guys? Where we are now, and that's what it is. People made a choice. Again, right? And it's not to say that Harris is a savior. I don't believe in saviors. I think we got to do it for ourselves. But what I'm saying to you is, I'll end on this. I think Tupac said something in an interview, and I always remembered it. He said, I don't have all the answers, right? I don't know how to change the world, but I guarantee I will spark the brain that will change the world. And he sparked me. Nipsey Hussle, when he got murdered, it broke my heart. And it made me lean more into community things and more things that I'm doing. And the amount of things that I do for free and for passion outweighs what I get paid for. But that's me being the change that I want to see, right? And so even being here and like double booking myself, but this conversation was important. So it's easy for me to say, oh man, I can't do it. No, you figure it out and you make it happen and you literally do that. And whatever it is, don't feel like you have to do 100%. Even if it's 10%, I'm a member of 10,000 Fearless Peacemakers, right? We go around promoting a colony of peace. We do conflict mediations. It's unpaid, it's volunteer. We've had conflict mediations that could have turned deadly by the weekend. Weapons were brandished, the whole thing. The motto of 10,000 Fearless is 1 hour of doing something is better than 24 hours of doing nothing. So if you live with that every day, 1 hour of doing something is better than 24 hours of doing nothing. So I'll end with that. But
yo,
yes.
that was great. That was great. I definitely want to salute to you, brother. I definitely want to piggyback off my brother. I just want to say this too, man. Like, I got made fun of a lot too. I got made fun of a whole lot.
What they call you?
I also got called African booty scratcher. I got called listen, we called each other that. Like, if you was black, you was getting called African booty scratcher. It don't matter. Like, yeah, like
no, they call me bottle of piss.
Yeah, like,
they call me a nightlight.
Yeah. They called you nightlight?
Yeah, all my friends were dark skinned, so I stood out like a nightlight.
So let me just say this. Let me just say this to my brother here, right? Like, brother, I get it. One of the things that we do here is we roast each other a lot, like even kids in school. Like, I have to tell my kids at the table, like, y'all are being kind of mean right now. Like, they just in there just roasting each other, like, I mean, flaming each other. So, brother, I don't want you to take none of that personal, you know, like when, you know, and listen, I got into so many fights when I was younger. Hey, have a good one, my brother. I got into so many fights when I was younger, man. Like, you know, growing up in the hood, growing up in the projects, like, I fought every single day coming out the house. Like, we were fighting, I mean, for all kinds of things. If you was poor, you was fighting. If somebody talked about your mama, you was fighting. If, you know, if somebody steal your mama's food stamps, they come in the house, they see the little book there. Like, this is when they was in the little book. Like, you know, they used to come in, they see the little book, they tear out a couple little pages out. We fighting over that. Like, then we gonna talk about you on Monday because you stole food stamps. Like, so I just don't want you to take a lot of that personal and you know, because Black America, like, we're very welcoming to other black folks, because one of the things that we've always connected with here is blackness. Like, here, like, I was never able, like, I'm so glad my brother brought that up. I was never able to identify with Haiti or identify with Jamaica or even identify with African. That's why calling myself an African American was so hard, because it just felt like a lie. You know what I mean? But what we were was black. That's one thing we were, for sure. You know what I mean? And a lot of us didn't like being black. Like, babies, like, they did a study in the 30s with babies, and they had a black doll and they had a white doll, and they asked the babies, which doll is better? Which doll is nicer? Which doll is mean? Which doll is bad? And all the negative things went to the black doll, and all the positive things went to the white doll. You know what I mean? And so and that's like, you know, self-trauma, self-hate, and that's from like centuries of that. And so we actually had to learn to love black. Black had to be something, James Brown, I'm black and I'm, say it loud. Everybody know it, say it loud. You know what I mean? I'm black and I'm proud. Like, we had to make black beautiful. Like, a lot of those old, I don't know if y'all remember the Afro Sheen commercials. Good Lord, I'm aging myself. But them Afro Sheen commercials, like, you know, it was saying how black was radiant and she was beautiful and she's the queen and the mother. Like, we uplifted Africa so much. I got the chills just now. Like, we uplifted Africa so much because Africa was like that thing to look to. But here, we didn't have that identity here with that because it was black. You know what I mean? And so when we actually had to learn to love black and learn to love ourselves and actually popularize black. I can't tell you how many people from the diaspora here say, I'm not black, I'm this. You know what I mean? I'm Dominican. Y'all have heard it.
Brandon, can I ask a question?
Black.
And also, too, you identify as African American, but do you identify as Black Foundation American? Or?
No, I wish I had my own term because I don't.
Is that what
I'm sorry. I said I wish I had like my own term because that is something also that I just feel like so disassociated from. Like, I'm not from Africa, you know.
Could you connect yourself to American, like, slavery? Like,
I mean, it's in my bloodline, you know. So Malcolm X is my mom's second cousin, you know, and so there's a history that's already embedded in me that I didn't ask for. It's just like a natural, it's like an innate thing with me.
Could I ask you guys a question about, like, so most everyone else here is, like, say, Caribbean or African, and you guys are essentially like Black Foundational Americans. Do you guys feel a connection to this land? Do you feel a connection to Africa? Like, you know, what is it being like Black Foundational America?
Go ahead.
So I'll say for me, you know, I definitely I don't feel a connection to Africa, just because my family hasn't been there for centuries. My family, and I mean, even through DNA, I was, 1680 was like the year that my family's gotten here. That's 40 something years. Like, yeah, almost. Like my family, yeah, not yet, but you know what? In my true ancestry, it was at least 1680. So I mean, we could have been here longer, and a lot of us, we commingle with the natives that was here and all of that other stuff. So what I'm saying is that, as far as love for the continent, like I got dire love for Africa, like dire love for the continent, and not just Africa, but all my, like, man, some of the closest people to me are people that are outside of FBA or outside. I don't like saying FBA because it kind of makes it like the acronym makes it seem like some sort of group, but outside of the lineage. But these are my brothers, like these are my sisters, like people that I would ride with, and people that ride with me, and we are close. But one thing we do share is we're black. We share that. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm saying. Like that's one of the things that we relate to here. We don't have the different mindsets of like, everybody else have. I think in the survey that I took to come here, one things that I said was like, they were saying like, what are some of the differences in like the African diaspora? And it's like, in Africa, there's so many different countries and there's like different languages. You know what I mean? Like, there's different languages from Africa to, even like in the Caribbean, different languages. And so when you have those different languages, it kind of gives you like a different mindset. But here, when you wherever you came from and you got here, you were black. That's what you were. And that's what you always were first. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why when our brothers and sisters come here, we identify with them and we relate to them, and we, you know what I mean? Like we long for that connection as well. But we have to give honor to our ancestors that die here. Like my ancestors' bones are in this land. You know what I mean? They sweat and toiled and were and lived and died and got paid nothing. In this land, you know what I mean? So, but I'll let the sister speak.
No, I mean, you summed it up perfectly. That's exactly how I feel.
Because I know in the UK, a lot of I think it was like a lot of people in the UK were pressing like Black Americans or Foundation of Black Americans about like, oh, you're from Africa. But like you don't feel that connection to that land. Like you feel the connection here because this is where like you trace like how many years? Like 380, 400? At what point in time do you become like indigenous to the land?
340 years, 340 years. 1680.
At what point in time you're indigenous to the
my
land?
True ancestry.
Repeat that. Repeat that.
What I said.
Yeah. Well, no, right. At that point, you are indigenous to the land, and I do think that's an important point to make, right? Like let's be clear. We're all somewhat removed, right, from our original cultures to some extent, right? There isn't a reason they should be speaking French in Africa. There isn't a reason they should be speaking French in the Caribbean. There isn't a reason they should be speaking Spanish, right? They've conditioned us and removed all of us. Do you think they're giving us the real history in the Congo? No. That's a real question. Do you think I know they're not giving the real history in Haiti, right? Being in Haiti is not going to give me any more real history than the fake history I'm getting here. Right, and they're definitely not giving real history here, and so what's separating and dividing all of us is the fact that we don't even have the true history of where we came from and what ties us all together, and it is the indigeneity, right? Malcolm X has a quote where he's like, we're Aborigines, but we don't like to be called Aborigines. Why is that? We want to be called black, right? And it's a fair statement when you understand that is actually what ties us all together. Your genealogy likely goes way farther back. This shirt that I'm wearing is part of my brand Indigenius, right? Shameless plug. But it's the last emperor of the Aztecs, right? Montezuma. What skin color is he, brother?
Brown.
Is he darker than you or lighter than you?
No, he's darker than me.
Come on, man. Right? And this is the last emperor of the Americas. This is the person Cortez pulled up on. Look just like my brother right over here, right? And so
Tupac Amaru.
Yeah. And so it's like And so it's like when you understand that there was clearly an ancient global civilization of melanated people that tied us all together. Because
we know that the planet broke up. Yeah. Right? The planet at one point was all one.
Before you start talking, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Boss Lady News. Cuban Mike brought me in. He knows that we can get a little deep sometimes, but I stay away from politics. But when we think about it and just some of the things you guys have said, and that's my brother DL, he knows we've known each other. We go way back. And at the end of the day, it's not hard to really just accept facts, right? Fact is, our continents were all attached at one point. That's a fact, right? That's simple. That's a fact. So everybody came from one location, and yes, we were voyagers. If you guys ever seen Moana, that's actually true. There are brown-skinned people that left this one continent, and as it started to break up, some of those people went in different directions. Right now, you've got a country in Africa that's starting to break apart. So what are we going to say? We're going to say that these people on one side of that country are one thing, and no. The continents, because of the tectonic shifts, this naturally happens. So we're all from Africa, whether we relate to that continent as it is right now or not, but that's a fact, right? So there's a fact that you had people in Europe before people came out of the Caucasus Mountains and started to breed. Those people had less empathy within them. These are scientific facts where we were able to find out that they've done studies to see what brings empathy and what brings, those levels of understanding that is attached to melanin. These are actual test studies that have happened. When we go to now questioning, are we connected in some way, shape, or form, if we're Americans, right? Because the Black American only became a categorized statistic when the government said we needed to categorize these people. The natives that were here became Black. The people that became Indian were 5%ers that chose to buy the land and call themselves Indians because the government was giving that away for $5. So you've got people from Europe, pilgrims that came over and said, hey, I'm Indian. And they purchased the land and they purchased the title to be known as Indian. You had brown-skinned people that were here already. So we had people that came from Africa via enslavement. And then you had people that were already here. Yeah. You had tribes that were here that didn't get along with each other. So when they seen these white-skinned people coming over, they said, well, maybe we can work with them. They can be a part of our tribe. Unaware that they did not carry the melanin genealogy code for empathy. They naturally are the people that they are. Fact is, the Negroid brain is different from the Angloid brain, is different from the Caucasian brain. These things are all facts, right? Those things have already been scientifically identified, and what's missing is the education. And that's why right now we're dealing with an administration that wants to take education away. Why? Because you have Caucasians that are now being educated and they're getting an empathetic understanding. Now, we don't want, if I was them, why would you want your children to be empathetic to the people that they hold power against? Don't want
the
that.
60s again.
Right. So what do? We take the education away. It's not just being taken away from brown-skinned people. We don't want our white kids to be educated either because they get along. They understand that we are the culture. We are the brand. We are every country. Black women came, or enslaved women came with beautiful crowns of hair. It was white women or Caucasian women that said, we can't handle the fact that our men are so attracted to you, so put a scarf on. And then we made that look good. So what happened? The French decided to take on that style and say this is now fashion. Everything that we do, we are all connected and combined. When I was younger and the Africans started coming into the schools, it was because we have been taught colorism. And because we've been taught colorism, right, you're going to hear somebody say, is this person lighter than you? Is this person darker than you? But we also have to understand, as out of a black woman, every color comes. So we can't deny the fact that any skin tone can come out of one dark-skinned woman.
But true. But
let's get into the colors.
But let's really talk about it now. So, from your experience, what are some of the benefits or downfalls that you've seen with colorism or tokenism? How have you seen other people use these types of traits to get into certain rooms?
Well,
and is it still relevant today?
100% it's relevant today. You know, for people who are foreign that come to the country, there's a history besides knowing the Pledge of Allegiance and besides knowing how our money system works. There's a history that they don't get a chance to learn, right? There's colorism, there's Jim Crow laws, there's the infiltration of drugs into our community, which is why people coming into the country are taught that black Americans are bad, but they don't tell you that they were infiltrated by our government with drugs. So now you have Africans that come here and they're like, oh, stay away from the black Americans because they're bad, they're into drugs, they're gang members. But there's a whole history behind it, along with colorism. The Willie Lynch letter, right, said, how do we pin them against each other? We're going to pin the tall against the short, the dark against the light, the thin against the bigger. And they kept this perpetuated through every person. They would take the light-skinned Africans and they would put them into the house. Now all of a sudden you have an anger that's being created. You have somebody inside the house that says your hair is good and your hair is bad. This is a perpetual idea that has been gone down the line, especially with black women in America and brown-skinned women of America. And just to kind of back up for a second, saying black American, saying African American, when it comes down to it, your child's going to ask you, what am I? And why am I not black? Because I'm not black. Children don't understand black. We teach them that. That's because we were taught that. So when do we start breaking this cycle of telling them that they're black? Because that's a category that was created. There's race and there's nationality. And ethnicity, right? These are all categories that they start to put people into. If you're Hispanic, because I know Cuban Mike be saying Latino, and I be like, no, Hispanic.
Right? It's a war here. There is a difference.
There's a difference because the government at some point decided to say, we're not going to say Hispanic anymore. We're going to say Latino.
And the thing with Hispanic, too, it was more concentrated to people with Central America and South America. So with the Caribbean, like Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, or whatever, we were not considered Hispanic to the poach over there. Yeah.
But here's the fact. A Latin person could be Greek, could be Italian, could be Hispanic, could be French. So they said, we're going to say Latinos because now we can incorporate all of these people that speak the romantic language. And guess who we get to exclude? Anyone that doesn't.
And the weird thing about it, too, I just found out in the next 5 years, they're going to turn Latino into a race. Oh my God. Yeah, in the census, they're going to change the thing for Latinos as a race now. It's no longer going to be an ethnicity on the papers. So be prepared for y'all. Yeah, so, okay, so coming from the Hispanic/Latino, sorry, Britt. One of the things that, even to this day, it happened, but it's not as loud as it was back in the day. And the girl from Love and Hip Hop, what's her name? The Dominican girl, Amara Negra. Oh, yeah, Amara. One of the things that she always keeps saying in interviews that happened to this day, she's heavily dark. And
heavily dark.
But one of the things that her parents used to tell her, or people in her, I don't know if her parents or people in her family, they used to tell her, get somebody that's white or in a lighter race to improve the race. Better up the race. That happens a lot in the Latin community. Not to say it doesn't happen in the Black American neighborhood community, but it does happen more than your average.
Another form of genocide, but it's internal.
But it came across that, when I dated, like, Hispanic girls, they used to tell me, like, their grandma's generation, you know what I mean, when they used to bring, like, a dude that was, like, heavily black or whatever, they used to give him so much shit, like, why are you bringing this to the house? And they used to have so much hatred and race. And it was weird, too, because it was usually the women that was preaching that stuff. Like, usually with the black men, they didn't even care. It was black men, it was black women saying, don't come with somebody that's darker than me to the house because you need something that's better it up. And it was a very horrendous thing. It's crazy, too, because I just saw an interview with Matthew Knowles, and he had a black, dark-skinned girlfriend, and his mom gave him shit for that, saying, I don't need you to bring something in the house. You need to bring somebody darker. So he had to break up with his dark-skinned girlfriend, and he got with Beyonce's mom. And once he got with Beyonce's mom, she was a little bit more happy because, much better. So
it takes time to breathe this out. It's an internal
insane
programming that was created.
The colorism is beyond bananas, but it's more crazy with the Hispanic neighborhood, because even to this day, we still have this deep-rooted thing with blackness that we're just like ashamed to be like black. Everybody knows the infamous clip that goes viral every time, me no black, me Dominican, me no black, me Dominican. Yeah. So it's still going on to this day, but I could say it's really much more indebted in the Latin community, because it's just thing that we still have this self-hate. Now we could blame, our slave masters, society, whatever the case may be, but I think we're at a point in time right now that we need to I'm from the era that my parents told me, when you know better, you do better. So I think we need to have a conversation within ourselves and just tell people that black is beautiful no matter what kind of skin tone you come from.
But let's go ahead and put a little bit of this
I just wanted to touch
professionals too.
Yeah.
Because we just got the Crown Act. So imagine all the black women that wanted to wear their hair naturally and couldn't because they couldn't get a job. Or black men that couldn't wear locks, they needed you to have a clean cut that off.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to also blame society because we didn't own the businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. I mean, I also wanted to touch on the colorism bit. And I think I just need everybody to really, really hear me and just understand this real quick, right? Like I said, I can't identify with any other ethnic group besides here in America, which was here we were black. So during slavery, when you came here, there'd be other slaves on a plantation. If you came here, like let's say if my brother came here, right from Africa, they would tell that brother right away. They would rename you, reclassify you. All of those things that you knew in Africa, you need to let them go, right? Because when you come here, you're black. Now, you count 10 generations later, and here I am, right? So all of those traditions and all of those things, of course, we retain some things from the motherland, some of the rhythms and some of the things like that we're able to keep away from the slave masters. Slave master didn't know, but we were black. That is what we were. That's what we were called. And so we had to actually take that and make that something meaningful to us. And so when people say, okay, well, we need to reclassify ourselves or we need to disassociate ourselves with that, it's almost like telling a Haitian person to disassociate themselves from being Haitian, or an Indian person telling themselves to disassociate themselves from that, because that is what our identity has been, and we've actually had to make that beautiful and coin that whole term, black is beautiful. Because like I said, I don't want to sound like one of those typical guys, but this is a system. We're under a system right now, and we know who runs the system right now. You know what I mean? And no matter how much we want to try to run away from this is like what we are. You know what I'm saying? And so I just want everybody to understand that, when you are here and you tell people, hey, we should think about disassociating ourselves from being black. I know there's I got, brothers and sisters out there, they are identifying as Israelite, they're identifying, Moors. I already told you guys that's in my lineage. Moor and Egyptian is in my lineage. We trace that Y chromosome all the way back. But that's more religion. When it comes to an ethnic group, that's something that we were missing for a long time as black Americans. What are we? Oh, are we American? No, we're not quite American because they don't consider us American. We're black, but who wants to be black? Like my brother just said, nobody wants to be black because being black is slavery.
Well, that makes me think about Walter Plecker and the education gap and the knowledge that we were not even presented with. Because I'm coming to my adulthood learning a lot about history, even from people who lived through it. and some of it not even corroborating what I'm reading in books from authors from either firsthand experiences or just recounting things from their memory. So there's a lot of like, nowadays I feel like we have so much access to information and connection to each other, as we can see in this room, that we can solve this puzzle in a few conversations. We just got to cut the distractions out and get to it for real, because there's so much overlap and intersection and connection where it's like seeming, where we see it, we feel it. Yeah. We just got to get to it for real, and I think that's the accountability part, because I'm feeling a lot of connection with like the Indian history of America now, and I'm Haitian, but it's like I'm seeing a lot of overlap where there was Haitians in Savannah that came to fight the Civil War. So I'm like, what's going on here? Why were we here fighting for this?
Were you also was Haitian too in Louisiana also?
Absolutely.
Okay, double checking.
All of us, all over. Yeah. I just know because I'm Haitian. I heard from my family telling me things like, I don't know where we're from in Africa, and I'm like, why don't you know that? And then I hear about Dessalines talking about the army of the indigenous, and I'm like, why is he saying that? So there's a lot of connections that I'm like, wait, there's a story here we're missing, and they're not telling us for a reason. Yeah. I want to figure it out.
I'm going to let Terry give his last thoughts on this perspective, and then we're going to take a small break.
Yes, sir. All right, so I took some notes because y'all were going in. I love this conversation, and I feel like this conversation is needed because this is how we get things done in real time. Right now, we can't wait for anybody else to move. We're not trying to do an appeal to emotion or whatever. I'm huge on self-determination, right? Like us as a people, as black people, have the ability to self-determine our destinies, right? And I feel like that distinction is important because, right, this is why I'm actually a little apprehensive about the term African. I align more with the term American, not just because I was born in America, but Haiti has been in the Americas for hundreds of years, right? And the cultures and traditions that were created and sparked there are unique and distinct. And we hold and cherish those, right? Whether it's like, you know what I'm saying, banan peze, right? You know what I'm saying, barbecue kasav, right? You know what I'm saying? Chaka, right? Distinctly American dishes that like were exported nationwide, but we do it here, right? And I feel black Americans have that. And not only do they have that, I feel like the reason the diaspora has a rift is because people don't respect that. They want to be like, no, you're not different than us. You're just like us. But they want to be like, no, we're unique, and I want you to respect that. And I think that's important because in Haiti, right, we've been through this. Mad different ethnicities in one island. You got the Tainos, you got the Arawaks, but you got the Congolese, you got the Senegalese, you have Polish people there. Right? Yeah, Ottomans, right? You'd be surprised the different cultures that were in one spot. And they were like, how do we unify each other, right? How do we all get on code, right? And they had to nationalize. They had to give themselves a new identity that was not attached to where they all came from, but where they were now and where they shared their history now. And they had to fight for it. And utilizing the culture and tying it to the land. And I think that's a very important part. My brother Forte brought it up. The Constitution of Haiti, it says Army Indigene, the indigenous army, right? Army of the Incas. Why did it say that? Because if you're going to be on a land, you got to venerate the spirits of the land. You got to venerate the ancestors of the land. So for us to look at people who are native to Boston, people who are native to the U.S. for 300, as I said, 400 years. I met a brother in New Orleans. His name's Chief, right? He's the chief of the Mardi Gras Skull and Bone Indians. He was like, I could trace my people back to 700 B.C. Why would he praise an African god? Right? Why would he call himself African if he has American deities he has in his culture, right? He has American traditions he practices, and he's been doing it for hundreds of years. I feel abandoning that is what actually curses a nation. And I would say that's one of the biggest problems with Haiti right now is that you have more Dominicans claiming Taino than Haitians. You know what I'm saying? And it's like if we want to unify, we got to respect the indigenous, but we got to also unify on the idea that we all have commonalities with each other. And the people who aren't indigenous to the land that they live on currently, right? I'm not indigenous to Massachusetts, the Wampanoag are. I'm going to venerate the Wampanoag. I'm going to help them out with their issues, right? Because if I don't, then how am I going to expect myself to win here, right? And so it's like Congo's dope, Haiti's dope, and we got to do what we can for our people. But while we're here, we got to unify around the Black American people that are here, because we're here right now. And when we get the results right here through our own revolutions, through our own plights, through our own struggles, right, then we could bring that out elsewhere. And we could fight for Haiti in Haiti. We could fight for Congo in Congo. But if we're in Boston, in the United States of America, but we're talking about another country, I'm sorry, it's not going to hit. It's just not going to hit. Not the way we want. And this is why we've been having this conversation, I feel like, for so long. We have to unify as one people, but around one people. And I feel like that's where Jamaica got the, out of one comes many. We need that here, and we don't have that. But I don't think it's on my brother here, who he already, as he said, he embraces so many different cultures. I really do feel like us as Black people who have such diversity within what we call Black, we have to rally around Black and truly mean it.
Or rally around American.
Or rally around American and truly
That's
mean
what
it.
I'm saying.
And truly mean it. And truly mean it. You know what I'm saying?
On that note, we're going to take a small break and we'll be back.
And give us some goddamn reparations. Let's go, man.
That is the next thing we're talking about.
That's a tough one there.
My God.
Show and Tell Boston, where we talk about everything art, everything Boston. We are here with our Black Culture Conversation, Black Diaspora Conversation, partly funded by the Reparations Task Force Equity Alliance. We have 3 different people here that need to introduce themselves. Can I get you guys to just who you are, ethnicity? There's a mic somewhere.
Yes, hi, hello, Wagwan. I am Mashiri the God. I'm mad Jamaican. And that's about it.
We'll get that out.
I'm Cheese the God, and I'm half Haitian, half Black. Yeah, about the God,
Goddies.
I'm trying to learn Creole too now, so
Let's go.
Same, bro. Same.
Maboulet, let's go.
I'm Angie, and I'm Black, Native, Irish, and Italian.
Nice. As we said, this is funded partly by the Reparations Task Force Equity Alliance. We're going to get into this conversation about reparations, but first, Terry, can you give us a few words?
Yeah, I want to thank Tata. I want to thank Show and Tell, and I want to thank all of you guys for being here. Most Generous actually reached out to me. Shouts to Mose. He told me, like, yo, Terry, you definitely got to be here for this conversation. And I saw the vision. I saw how it aligned with the Reparations Task Force. And I feel like this portion is very important because this discussion isn't just a discussion, right? Too long are we used to, as Black people, just being satisfied with representation, being satisfied with a symbol, right, of freedom, a symbol of progress. Right now, we have Black people, Black Americans, Black Bostonians, right, of all different walks of life, right, working in the Reparations Task Force, the first ever Reparations Task Force in the city of Boston's history. Boston has been here since the country's inception. And they're having conversations, right, about how do we bring reparations to Black Boston, right? And this is important. This is why distinction's important, right? Because we're not having necessarily a national conversation yet, right? Other states have done it. California has passed a couple things. I think Illinois has it. People are experimenting. This is Boston's, right? This is ours. Legitimately, who here lives in the state of Massachusetts or lives in Boston, right? Who lives in Boston specifically, right? Who works in Boston, right? This is us, right? And so deciding how reparations happens is up to us. And I've sat in a few of the meetings. Needless to say, it gets quite chaotic at times, right? Because the passion's real. But most of all, there's a lot of pain still in our community, a lot of pain. Some people took the moment multiple times just to air their pain. even though like we're asking legitimate questions, we have professionals there listening, doing studies on how we can legislate reparations for Black people in Boston. People are up there talking about what's happening to their children in BPS, how they were accosted. And it's not like they're not valid for that. They deserve that, but it's to show that the reason we can't have this conversation fully is because there's a lot of pain. The reason we can't have this conversation fully is because we're afraid to have this conversation. The reason we can't have this conversation fully is because we don't rally as one for one unified agenda, narrative, and cause. And so this discussion is in pursuit to bring that unification, right, in its cause. And I'd love to hear from everybody their perspective on how they feel reparations should happen, whether you identify as a Black American, right, a foundational Black American, a first-generation immigrant, or anything in between. And how do you feel reparations in Boston should be rolled out? And you have something to say, Tata?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about like how do we even have this conversation? So, we're Haitian.
Yes.
We could argue that reparations for us would be from the French, but you could make a case that Haiti is owed reparations from America because America did some dirty stuff to Haiti. But the people that I would say really deserve it in the country would be Black foundational Americans. Other than that, like, how would you distribute reparations to people who just identify as Black? Is that fair? You know what I mean? Like, how do you I don't even know the start to even have the conversation about reparations, so I would just like people's opinions on that.
And also ADOS, too.
Well, Black Foundation Americans, ADOS, I think ADOS might be a little bit of a political party maybe, but I know they're kind of one thing.
When I hear reparations, I always think repair. Like, how do we repair the pain and the hurt? Because there's a lot of that to even get to a state of clarity, to even see the forward vision, because a lot of us still feel that pain and we haven't addressed that trauma. So I think a lot of the reparations would be in that, like Boston, Massachusetts has some of the top medical educational programs and institutions. Why aren't we getting reparations there? When it comes to economics that disparages that throughout all our communities, where it's like, all right, let up. I wanted to go to school and it was hard for me to pay for college. And I wanted to be a productive member of society. I wanted to go to trade school, be an electrical engineer. So it's like, how about we provide the children of tomorrow that opportunity so they don't have to fret about none of that. That would be a reparation for me. So.
Just on that point, I don't know if this counts as part of reparations, but I do know that Harvard right now has made a lot of their courses free, so people can take part in that, and especially I know that Harvard has particularly been generous to the Black community, as far as I understand, but that's just a quick point I wanted to make.
Wow. Well, here's the thing. I believe with Black America, there should be some sort of level of compensation for everything that was supposedly promised to them, and it was never promised them to this day. I believe there's a level of compensation that should be owed to Black America, but the question is, how do we go around it? Is it a level of monetary gain, free education, free housing, or not housing, but a way to them to have ownership to their house? And even to go around it is very tricky because once we think about reparation, we quickly think like, give me money. And you can't just give people money that don't know how to handle money. And the first thing that comes to my mind, for whatever reason, that damn Dave Chappelle skit. Yeah. Or what happened? Yes. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And not even a Dave Chappelle skit, but it's like, I always watch these documentaries of people that win the lottery. So when you give, for example, somebody $100 million how they get the money,
I'm straight going to
they don't even know how to handle the money because they don't know financial literacy. So that's the part that gets tricky. So you just can't give people money that don't know how to handle money because there's a lot that goes around it. And unfortunately, because we live a lot of black folks that live in a lot of low poverty neighborhoods. You hear somebody in the hood that got money, the first thing that comes to mind, I'm gonna rob them, thievery, all these other things. So now you gotta like protect yourself that hopefully something that something messed up doesn't happen to them. So there's out of different conversation, and even now with this conversation of reparation, it gets tricky because now they're saying we're gonna have a conversation of reparation and get money for it. So the first thing that comes to my mind, okay, Tata Aisha, for example, I steal $5,000 for you, and you find out I steal $5,000 for you, and be like, you're right, I stole $5,000 for you. But instead of me giving you the $5,000 I owe you plus interest, let's have a conversation of class of why I should give you those $5,000 that I stole from you. Let's have a conversation. I'm not gonna give you that in interest and plus the things I did to your family. No. Let's have a conversation, and I'll give you like $1,000, and I'll give you $1,700 from the $5,000 I owe you. So it's a lot of ways to get around it. It's a way it gets tricky. I agree that Black Americans should get a little compensation, but two things: one, I don't know how to get around it, and two, I don't know if I should trust the people that's supposed to have the power to give this, compensation that's owed to them. Because you just mentioned Harvard. Harvard, do you really want to trust Harvard with the history that they have? Because they also have a level of racism amongst the constituents over there.
1,000%.
So it's like, all right, thank you for giving me a lesson of what you need to teach me, but that's not really what I need right now. I need something else of what of the compensation is supposed to look like.
All right, how about this, bro? How about we put reparations in the form of putting black people in power in those frames, in those. No.
How
about
No, because here's the thing, and I'm gonna tell you from personal experience. I found out, as much as we want black people to win and aim for the sky, once you have certain people that look like us in a certain position, that either we put them in that position or the white man or the powers that be put them in that position, they don't really care about us. They put us in a position to just give us the bare minimum or just focus on their on their own interests because they're at their own situation to deal with. Unfortunately, when it comes to politics, I don't trust the people. I mean, unfortunately, they got the issue with. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of complaints with Barack Obama, rightfully so, because they feel as though he didn't do right for their people. I mean, even with FBA, they have this thing with Barack Obama. Yeah, when it first came out, it was fascinating to see a black president. But then once you look at his record, he wasn't really FBA. He was Kenyan. Then he was half white. So, he grew up with white parents. All these other different dynamics. But because we were just happy that looked someone that kind of sort of looked like us, but he never really went through like a real FBA struggle and what it looked like. So I don't really, and then me being Latino, I've been in a situation with these politicians when it talks about like my issue, and that's why with I don't want to call you FBA, I'm gonna call you Black Americans. With Black Americans, I get where you guys coming from with trying to represent like your Black Americanness because I'm Cuban, you're American. Yeah, we black or whatever, but my family being Cuban, they don't know about your family's Black American struggle, and you being black, you don't know my Cuban, Black Americans, black Cuban struggle, what we went through. So it's a vice thing. So I would have a more understanding and have people within your Black American lineage to talk about the things you went through as an American. Same thing if you were Haitian. You're Haitian, you go to your Haitian struggle in your story, you want people from the Haitian community.
You're saying the power shouldn't just be given to any black people?
No. Because
it's a connection. Makes sense.
Because the only thing we know about each other is racism. That's all we know. So the only thing we know is that, white people treat us horrible because racism and they think they're superior with us. But then once you go to these little things or whatever the case may be, they don't know our struggle. Like my man here's from the Congo. I don't know his Congo story because, his family went to a certain situation. My family lived communism. A lot of people know about communism, what it is and what they go through. You're Haitian. You guys went to your own dictatorship with Papa Doc. So we don't know where you went through, what the case may be. So it has to be your people telling the story. Exactly. I'll tell you the story. When the first time I went to Urban Heat, and there was a situation where there was a councilman that was supposed to go to the station. They didn't go, and they promised a phone call, and they were supposed to promise something to them, and they didn't. But then what happened with them? They were not from that lineage. So I always said, with Black Americans, if you want Black Americans to be represented within your office and your political thing, you have to have somebody that's Black American to tell your story. It can't be Haitian. It can't be Cuban. It can't be, whatever the case may be. If it's a racial issue, yes, because we're all black and we're going through it. But then once it comes to ethnicity, nationality, you have to have somebody from that nationality and ethnicity to tell your story.
That's true. I feel like, for us to actually receive the reparations, for us to actually be the people that are like getting control over like how we see reparations, it has to be actual black people. It can't be some white person telling, oh yeah, we're gonna put this person here, and oh yeah, this person is the one that you get to choose to talk for you guys. Nah, we have to be the one that choose them. We have to be the person that says, oh, we crown this person, oh yeah, as our person. Not, oh yeah, we got this system that they built that we trying to align with, that they trying to structure around the right and wrong and the real truth of reality.
Yeah, but then here's the tricky thing about it, because like I said, when there's certain things that, when we ask for like the black agenda, what it is, you have people that's in that position that they don't know what it is. Again, I'll go back to Barack Obama, when there was people that were from the black community say, we need a black agenda and we need something that's black and this, that, and the third. One of the things that I remember that stuck up with Barack Obama, he said,
no politics ever lead with the black agenda.
But we keep going. We keep going to politics. What I'm saying is we keep going to politicians to ask for these things that we vote for, and then when we go to that, they keep saying, "Well, I'm not the president of Black America. I'm a president of the United States of America, so I'm here to represent all the people." Yeah. But when it came for the gay community, he came through for the gay community. Yeah. When it came for immigration, well, I won't go for him for that. But if it's an issue involving like Latin, he'll go for that department and reach for them. So what I'm saying, when it comes to like us, they don't come through with it.
I hear you, brother. Pardon my interjection.
Go ahead.
I just want to build on it and be like, so you're making some good points, but some of how you're framing what you're saying, it can sound like you're infantilizing us, right? In the sense that we can't, self-determine ourselves. We can't. Infantilizing, like being infants, like, oh, like, that's why they call us minorities, right? Exactly. The word minority is a loaded term, because when you look at the term, it means somebody who can't take care of themselves. And we call ourselves that, and we wonder why other people feel like they have to control our systems for us. One of the, I think it was the CEO of Blackwater, a mercenary group, the biggest military, like mercenary weapons, he was talking about invading Africa. Eric Prince, you know his name, right? and he was saying, he was like, yeah, like if Africa can't govern itself, I'd be glad to govern it. I'll be glad to invade, right? And I'm paraphrasing, but he was open. Yeah, he was open in Haiti, right? There's groups of white supremacists online, real people online right now saying, hey, if Haiti can't govern itself, let's just grab some guns. Let's get some military strategists. Let's get some medical people. Let's get all the pillars of what we call civilization, and let's just go to Haiti and take it over. And there's a whole bunch of white guys. They're ready to do it, right? They're ready to do it. You think the government's going to stop them? But it's like, we have to understand, if we don't act for ourselves, nobody will. And the moment is now, right? And so it's like, it's easy to be like, should black people be in power, and then respond no, especially because you could have people who aren't, like, all skin folk and kinfolk. That was where I agree with you. All skin folk and kinfolk. But we have to realize we have the power now. Like we're the ones in power right now in 2025. The Reparations Task Force of Boston, right, wants to hear from us so we can make a decision. And so what we discuss here is important in the sense that, like, it's not just about, like, oh, now we can never do right with the power. You're manifesting that right now by saying that. We can do right with the power. Let's do right with it right now. That's what this is. That's what this discussion is.
So I think a part of the conversation when it comes to reparations has bubbled up so strongly because of I'm a real estate agent, so it's honest and true that families that have come to this country were given $30,000 to $40,000 per adult, and they were able to use that money towards whatever they needed, included housing. And there's plenty of Americans that had a problem with that, because somehow, not only for COVID did they find STEMI money, right? But also for the new families that were coming into the country, they were able to pull $30,000 to $40,000 per family. And we're talking about thousands of families from multiple countries, not just Haiti. I helped a family from Colombia that received $35,000. They were able to get a car. They were able to get employment. They were able to get child care, and they were able to put that money towards their rent for a year and a half. No Black American can say that they've actually received that. That is reparations. And we're missing out on what the solutions can be because we are talking about the trauma and the problems, right? But we're, as a group, Black people are consistently talking about the trauma and the problems because we have all of these different connections to different countries and different experiences and different families. But because my passion is financial education, I've spoken to almost every politician here in Boston and let them know that we have a program that offers free education and finances every second Sunday. Shameless plug.
Where at?
Every second Sunday, 7 Cheney Street, Grove Hall, NDC, from 1 to 3. People are taking 2 hours and just focusing on leveling up their money, right?
I need to go
So when, and this is free, right? We're doing. This is free. And the fact that our government is not providing that and, in fact, taking that away, they've taken how to count money out of the school systems, repair that. They've taken how to do business money in high school, repair that. How about why are we getting into college and still not knowing about how to manage a credit card, but they have tables there as soon as freshmen hit their foot at the door? Repair that. You know? There's so many traumas in our community that unfortunately create a system where people are afraid of Black folks. Why? Because they're not taught financial education. They're not taught money. So when you're not taught money and they say, guess what? We'll help you out. We'll give you food stamps, which is a system that Black America created, right? The Black Panthers created that. The government took over, assassinated a few people, and said, we have welfare now, and we have food stamps now. We create everything. Repair what we've created. That's what reparations really should be. They've taken guidance counselors out of the schools. There's so many things that can be repaired. And I think it's great that the colleges are becoming free to everyone. But we're forgetting the fact that people that can get into these colleges are going to certain communities and getting the education to get into these colleges. So we're not talking about the schools that are closing down in Boston. Repair that. We're not talking about the children that have to go to school after a friend or family member was killed and there's no guidance counselors or support systems inside the schools anymore. There's not even nurses. Repair that. That's reparations.
Can I just add something real quick because this topic of reparations is, I hear a lot of people talking about it. I just want to say this. If you're not a foundational Black American, it's hard for me to hear you talk about what we should and shouldn't get as far as reparations is concerned. And let me just say this, right? When in slavery, right? So my family, part of my family, I learned through DNA, worked in the Catoctin furnaces out in Maryland. We're talking some of the most laborious types of labor that you could think of, the most excruciating, and they did this for generations, were never ever paid. My family were slaves on those Scales plantations. My last name is Scales. Those Scales plantations down there in North Carolina, they built those plantations, literally built them, lived on them. They raised the master's children. They multiplied the master's stock.
Can we stop saying that? Because y'all been saying that since the first half. What? I am not mastered, and nobody
just hear me out. Just stay with me. Stay with me. Just stay with me. I'm gonna interpret. I'm gonna say it the way that, and I'm sorry if it's hard for you to hear, but this is the history. This is what it was. So when I say this, hear me out real quick. I don't want to get lost in the weeds. So we multiplied the slave master's stock and his family. Oftentimes we were the monetary possession of them, and we we were never paid for none of that. We were never repaired for any of that. Lincoln was supposed to, the whole 40 acres and a mule thing was supposed to happen in 1865. And when Lincoln was assassinated, the next president, Jefferson Davis, completely vetoed the thing, and it was never, ever repaired. None of it was ever repaired. And so then comes 100 years of Jim Crow, comes the redlining, comes keeping us out of certain neighborhoods, and then having, because, you know, we fought for a lot of those immigration rights that happened in 1965, and it was so great having other brothers and sisters come over. But when a lot of the brothers and sisters came over, they came over already having that education, because America was strategic in who they chose to come over here. So you already had to have the education, already had to have all of that. Black folks were denied education, were denied the right to be able to read, and a lot of those things passed down, and it was inherited by the next generation and inherited by the next generation. And so when we talk about reparations, we're talking about, a lot of us are thinking cash payments reparation, but not just cash. It also
resources.
Thank you.
No
Say
titles,
that again. Say that again. I'm about to land.
Yeah,
I'm about to park my car. Right. Resources are important for a group of people. If you don't have access to resources, and you're just weakened. And so when we talk about this is why reparations hasn't been able to get passed, because we have so many different ideas and so many different opinions on who should get it, from people who aren't from the land, who didn't fight to get it, who didn't fight to get it at all. You know what I mean? And so when we have the discussion about reparations, just, you know, understand that, you know, it's a debt that's owed, a debt that was never paid, and at some point it's a debt that's going to have to be paid and compensated. I hope I make sense on that.
Mm-hmm. Let me get Angie to say something, and then we have a question from the audience.
Okay. So I'm going to honestly just tie everything together, because I sat back and listened to everything, and everybody has something important to say. But at the end of what I was tying on and he ended on was resources, without fear of infiltration or retaliation, with everything that we've built, because in the Black community, we have built things, our own communities, that have been tore down, burned down, you know, washed away, integrated. And I think where it starts is, we're talking about money, you know, we're talking about systems. Again, I think it's about, you know, knowledge in the beginning, like starting like basis is when you give the Black community knowledge, they know what to do with it. We are Black excellence. We are from this land. We are the people of this land. You know, everything comes from us, the trends, you know, the way everything, you know, the mother gene, you know what I'm saying? Like, they've taken things from us, even medically, like our cells and stuff that have regenerated for cancer, and like research, like that goes even deep without ever, you know, and saying like there's so many unhealed traumas that we're all discussing. And it's like, I think that, again, it starts with the resources. When you give people that knowledge, then you can give them the funding, then you can give someone, if you teach give somebody a fish, they don't know nothing. But if you teach a man how to fish, he'll know for the rest of his life. So but again, we have to talk about the infiltration part, like, you know, something federally protected, like Native people, like, even though that's a tainted situation, but they don't get to make any decisions in their community. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, on their land and stuff like that. So when we're talking 40 acres and a mule, like, again, resources, land, and then that comes with money and wealth. But it is a bigger discussion when you break it down. You have to start in smaller communities. But again, there has to be, I don't know how to say it, like, leaders and people who understand and are educated, who can lead people to that, like you teaching people on Saturdays, like that's an amazing Sunday. So I'm sorry. Yep.
Second Sunday.
Every second Sunday, 1 to 3, Grove Hall in DC.
Absolutely. So, like, starting there, but again, I think what comes in the black community is all the information is so spread out, so scarce. Like in a certain community, Jewish communities, you could like figure out, like it's like a chain, like it's our communication is cut off. So again, if we start from bare minimum of resource and knowledge, I think that's where to start with reparations and where to think about. I don't know where it goes from there, but I think to tie everything back together, that's like the starting point. So,
audience question. Wedley, you had a question? Step up. What do you have to say to these good people?
So, sort of off listening to everybody, and I'm actually somebody who works in local politics down out in Providence. Used to live out here. I kind of want to just ask you guys a quick little survey, right? So I hear the conversation in terms of Haitians, but I completely understand your point of saying that we have to start with Black Americans, right? That point is prevalent. So, off of that, I ask everybody, how many people in here know who their state representative is, right? How many people in here know who their city councilman is, right? How many people in here know who the head of their DPW is down in Boston? How many people in here know who these people are? And ultimately, if we don't like it, and if you guys don't like it, right, who's going to step up, right? Because if the question is, me as a Haitian, I don't understand your stripe all the way because I'm Haitian, but I'm here with you, right? I can stand in the room with you. So the question becomes, who in your neighborhood do you want to step up? Or are you going to step up? Or are you going to come to the ward meeting with me next time? Or who are you going to invite, right? Because that's where the conversation starts. That's where these people are making the decision. So how do we get there? And that's my question to you guys. How do you guys get people inside of these rooms, inside of these hallways, to hear these conversations, to see what they're doing? Because a lot of this stuff is streamed online. It's public information, right? So how do we get our people to want to get part of that conversation outside of this podcast, outside of this, right? I love the fact that you plugged in your financial services, but beyond that, what do you know in here that we need to plug somebody into? And who do you want to go, and who are you going to invite to that meeting next time? So that's my question to you guys.
I have no idea how to answer.
I'll go first in that department. I'll go first. I mean, I live in Lawrence, Massachusetts. I'm familiar with my mayor. I'm familiar somewhat with my counselor. But you are right in that department. We as a people, we don't really do well when it comes to like our local folks. We're focused like, you know, either the president that we're never going to meet or the governor that probably going to meet. You know, we're not really focused on the people that are really local. Like, you know, I don't know how it is in Boston, but I could talk to my mayor. Like I shook his hand. Like I have conversation with him. Like he knows me. Same thing with the city council. Like I could get in contact with him. They know me. So we need to do a better job. And it's crazy because I live in Lawrence, and I think I've never in my life went to like an actual city council meeting in regards to like what's going on with the community. But my job now is to try to do better. And there's an issue going on with the city. I got to show up. You know, just last year I had a brother who he was a singer. He was a reggae singer. He passed away, and the whole city show up just to have like a street named after his street where he lived at. And like and it was crazy because like everybody showed up. There was certain people that was like opposed of it, but a lot of people was for him having the street named after him just for the fact he contributed a lot for the community, and they passed it. And I thought that was the dopest shit ever. So I'm like, okay, if we're able to do this for our guy who really did contribute a lot for the community, I think we could do more. You know, if there's a bump on the road, a bump or whatever on the road, and you know we got to fix the road streets or whatever the case may be. There's an issue going on with our schools because you know they're not doing a good job with our teachers, our principals. We could do a better. We could show up for a lot of things. So I think we as a people we got to do better on showing up. Because I saw that as an example. At the same time, we can't be selective where we could pick or choose, and we do. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I think I'll speak for myself. I don't do a good job on trying to like you know show up when certain things happen. So you are right because we keep saying certain people use this trick like you know if you don't like your president you don't have to vote. You can vote, but just focus on your city council or your city stuff or whatever. Focus on your local shit. But you're right. Half of the people don't even know the people that are local and don't even know who the fuck they're representing for. They just like show up every 2 or 4 years, and they don't do their due diligence or figure out who's that person serving your community.
I'm sorry. I think that's where it starts, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's major that it starts in your city.
Yeah.
Because that overrides
everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for Boston, I know Stacey Borden ran for city council. She's an amazing woman. She has had her fair share of life, and she's very relatable. And she's all about the growth and the unity in our culture, from our history, and she helps others to grow and expand. So I felt like she was downplayed a lot when she ran for city council, and it wasn't a fair shot for her. Number one, because she's a woman of color, and that just has a whole nother story to it. But also because she's of color, and so with our history in Massachusetts, there's a level of history where it's like, okay, whoever's running for city council, it's going to be of this stature and of this nature, and I just feel like she didn't have a fair shot, but she's an amazing individual. She's an amazing being, and she should have had a fair shot.
Now, with that being said, with her, did the community show out for her the way they should have for the or like it
to piggyback on what you said?
Yeah, did they show out?
They did, but she could have had more of a representation. But because we're not knowledgeable, that played a role.
Okay, gotcha.
Understood.
Got it.
Yeah, personally speaking, as far as your question goes, after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and that whole saga, I live in Brookline, and I was involved in the select board for police. God, what was this called? No, this was all about changing how police works, essentially reimagining the select board for reimagining policing in Brookline. And so like being a part of that was very important because Brookline is very known for stopping people of color that drive through Brookline just because they're people of color, primarily coming from Roxbury, Dorchester, places like that. And so, we wanted to actually do something where we were actually fighting against that and not ticketing because, you stop somebody for a traffic violation and that can quickly turn into, something else. And so, personally speaking, that's something I got involved in, and helped out on that board for police reform for a little while. But there's always more that folks can do in order to get involved and be a part of local government, and in helping get to know who are the people that are running and why are they running and what can we do in order to help advance their cause and our community's cause at the end of the day.
So I mean, I'll say for sure that I definitely know the local government. I've gotten a citation from the state of Massachusetts and from the city of Brockton for the volunteer work that I do in Brockton. I clean the streams. Shout out to Mike Smith. Me and Mike Smith, we've teamed together and we, put together basically a volunteer program of volunteers to come down and help us clean some of the dirty streams and stuff like that out in Brockton. And I've had the Senator Brady come out. I've had Councilman Thompson come out. I've had Stephen Lynch. I believe he's one of the state representatives. I had a state representative come out. I've even had the mayor come out. So I know who the local the local people are, but it's more of a grassroots movement. Reparations. It's more of us getting on code first, and it's hard to get on code when people feel like, hey, you're just begging, just asking for some free money, and people don't see that it's an unpaid debt owed. That still, I mean, we think about it, we're in 2025, and still, it's yet to be paid, and it's yet to be repaired. And so that's been part of the whole reparations issue. And I mean, and so when we say, start with like Black Americans, the reason why we're saying that is because we're here, we're in America, and this is the country that has, victimized us. This is a country that's gotten free labor, free unpaid labor. You think of, I mean, when you look around, Black Americans built everything, literally everything, cleared the brush, cleared the land, built the buildings. I mean, literally done it all for free, for nothing. And, at the time, they felt like, well, this is our property, so they're doing but now, if you look at it, they took all that wealth that they inherited and they passed it on to their children. They passed it on to their children's children and children's children. That's who they did it for. And so, now today, when you look and, you have people who are still economically deprived, still cut out of certain programs, still are denied access to certain areas to live. There's a debt there that needs to be paid for sure. And it needs to be paid to a particular people first. And, and then, we can start looking at, throughout the diaspora, who was injured by whoever else, and who owes these people their particular repairs. So
no, I love that. What I feel is one of the missing factors in people understanding that, right, is what I've noticed about you two in particular is that you guys use specifics and naming places, naming names, naming times of things that happened right here in Boston that need to be repaired, right? Tangibles that are tied to real facts that can only be known through historical heritage that comes from here. And I feel where a lot of the conversation and miscommunication starts to begin is that the more removed you are from that heritage, the more it's like, you're a first generation or second generation immigrant, the more everything here just seems like it was just already like this, right? So why are you complaining? It's always been like this. But you're like, no, it hasn't. Shit broke. It was working at one point. And the specifics about that. But so many people are coming into this conversation and they don't know those specifics. There are going to be people who think Nubian Square was always Nubian Square. Why are you complaining about Nubian?
We still trying to stop saying Dudley, okay?
Right. We just stopped saying Dudley. We still saying Faneuil.
Right.
But you got to know the history to know what's wrong with that. Right? And so I feel like one of the crucial things missing, especially when it comes to reparations, is not just history, not just Black history, but Black Boston history. None of us were taught that. And there are Black Bostonian historians, Black Boston historians. I met multiple of them at the Reparations Task Force. The most absurd thing is, I don't know. I'll say it. Fuck it.
Say it.
People weren't listening to him, right? People weren't listening to him. They had to raise their voice to get their points across about why the history in Black Boston is integral and core to this process of reparations. Yes. People weren't hearing that.
I got a couple history facts for you guys. All right. History fact number 1. The United States dollar bill used to have slaves on it. That meant not only were they doing the work, but they were the money, okay? Literally. If you had a bill with a slave picture on it, that actually meant you had a certain level of wealth because you had enough of them to be able to purchase this type of monetary standing. History. History fact number 1. History fact number 2. We all know Faneuil Hall was one of the trade ports for enslaved people. Faneuil Hall, once a year, there's a group that reenacts the enslavement sales down in Faneuil Hall. It's
one of the biggest slave-holding families in the United States. And before you continue going on, I just want to say there's a great book called The Hidden History of Massachusetts. Has all this information in it, including a whole list of all the slave masters that we named these streets and these the Dudley family, the Seaver family, the Cabot family, the Faneuil family. But continue building.
Yep.
Sister,
Okay.
I just wanted to.
So, fun fact for Boston. You should know there's an African American history museum on Beacon Hill. I said I was a real estate agent, so you got to do your history, right? I'm one of them people. Beacon Hill used to be called Nigger Hill. Nigger Hill was mostly black people. Eventually, the people got moved downwards, and they ended up in the South End. From the South End, they moved into Roxbury. Roxbury used to be Jewish. The Jewish people burned down Roxbury. The black people came in because it was cheaper to buy. Right. Right. You know?
It sounds like we got a black Boston historian in the room.
Listen.
Bars. Fucking
But
bars.
We also have to understand that when it comes to politics and when it comes to people knowing who their representatives are, if they can't afford to live here, then they're not going to be able to vote for those people anymore, right? So when the community has to fight for ownership where they live, and then they have to fight for affordable rent, which I do not believe in. I believe in affordable home ownership or ownership that just is fair price. But when you get moved out of Boston and into Brockton, all of a sudden Brockton starts to get the people who became educated because they had to move out of Boston, right? Lawrence is able to collect and multiply and support in numbers because the community is able to stay there and live there. People don't know Marty Walsh at some point, please somebody look this up. He went on TV and said, I want 75,000 more families here in Boston. All of a sudden, we had a bunch of construction going up, and on damn near every block, there's a new building going up. We haven't hit 75,000 new families yet. Okay? So when we talk about do you know who your representatives are, most of the representatives in Boston, a lot of them, right? One of them was a nightclub promoter, and that's how I'm not going to say he or she, but that's how they got their position because they were popular. Another person was a designer and had a good following, and that's how they got. You got other ones that are now nightclub owners. You had one that owns a smoke shop down in the North End. People leave their positions and they go into something called the private sector because all of a sudden they went from making, maybe low five figures to now 6 figures, and then they leave the government and they go into the private sector, and you can hardly ever find them or connect with them again. So there's a level of disrespect that the politicians in Boston have from their constituents, because when you can put money into speed bumps, but you can't put money back into the Boston public schools, that's a problem.
Yes.
So do I want to name any of the people here in Boston right now? Absolutely not. Because people who are trying to get those positions are doing more for the constituents because they want those roles. And it's fake. It's fictitious.
But this is why I mentioned Stacey Borden, because she goes against all of that. Like, she's like, I'm for my people. I've been through the struggle. I've even been on drugs. And she's like, no, let's progress. You understand? Like, she's very relatable, and I'm done.
And I just wanted to mention one more thing. I'm sorry. Let's talk about numbers. They actually have broken down what 40 acres and a mule would be today. And if every family who could say that they could prove a family member was a part of being enslaved because the owner that purchased them wrongfully never paid them, it's about $230,000 per family member, right? Because we're talking about the generations that were able to build off of that. So when we're talking about repairing, what does the monetary number look like? In some states, they're saying $230,000 per family member. And that sounds more accurate because we can talk all day about the problems, but what white superiority or great white hope can't do is come up with the solutions, because we have to come up with the solutions. We have to tell them what we need. We need to tell them how much it's going to cost, and we need to tell them where it needs to go. Okay? So put that money that is not being put into our families' pockets because they're afraid we're going to spend it back into the community. But a really good point that was made is that the money is even going to get cycled back into the economy one way or the other.
Yeah,
give the families their money and resources.
Piggyback off this sister real quick, and I'm pass it to my good brother
here.
So, man, you made such a great point, because a lot of that land, like, so the United States was just giving away land. I know you guys saw Martin Luther King's. That Martin Luther King, for all of you that don't know, he was all about reparations. He said, "I'm going to Washington to get our check." He didn't say, "I'm going to Washington to get our resources." He said, "I'm going to get our check." Right? The land that was passed down has compounded in value over and over and over again, and it was passed down to families. That's where a lot of that generational wealth is coming from.
That's why Chestnut Hill doesn't sell. They pass it down to their families, and the prices of their homes only increases by the millions.
To mention that.
Real quick. You got me right here? There's something I want to say really, really quick, because I'm getting tired of like social media saying this joke that there's no black folks in Boston. You see what we got here? Black folks out here. Whatever department you're looking for, whether it's African, Caribbean, West Indian, Black American, Latino, we got black folks out here. So we're tired of running the joke. There's more to us than New Edition and Gangstar. So we got black folks out here. Really, really quick. We got black folks out here. Recognize our shit, goddammit.
Right? Say it louder. I'm black and I'm proud. Let's go.
We're getting ready to wrap things up around here. Was there anyone who wanted to... No, I just wanted to hear if there's any, like... I just want to hear if there's any last perspectives of people who didn't get to talk yet.
I mean, I did have things to say.
Talk!
But,
Talk your shit, queen.
I just want to add the perspective of being someone that grew up in a very Jamaican household. My entire family is Jamaican. I was born here. And feeling the divide, I forgot who it was, who all that mentioned not feeling connections to certain things. And I didn't feel connected to anyone outside of Jamaican culture, really. And so I started to do some digging. But it's kind of hard to do that digging when you don't have the source that you would go to, which is my dad, who passed away. And so I'm noticing not to be the one that starts the whole convo about, like, you know, dads not being in the home and whatnot, but like that matters. And then also even if the dad is alive and well, just the trauma that the moms have to deal with that also leads to mother wounds that daughters have to deal with, which I am dealing with. And like that makes it hard to connect to things. And then you have to go through your own personal, like, rebirth, kind of. And then you have to find community. And that shit's hard to do. So, like, without Show and Tell Boston. Hello? Show and Tell Boston? Hey! Okay, thank you. Without Show and Tell Boston, I really thank God for this conversation. I just want to say thank you to everybody that came today. Thank you to everybody that, like, participated in the conversation and, like, shared some shit. It's not the easiest thing, and I'm still actually, I find myself going back to the Rastafarian roots that I was raised with, just to find some answers and connection and back to, like, what feels like me. And no, I'm not calling my dreads locks. I'm not doing that either. But yes, I just have to say thank you guys for coming. Thank you for the the conversation. And
Well,
we gotta have a part 3.
We do have a few submitted questions. I don't know if we have time or. All right, but it gotta be like a one-person answer, and then we gotta move in. Okay. One was, do you believe that most black people in the diaspora have anti-American sentiments, and do you see that changing in the near future?
Wait, say that again?
Do you believe that most black people in the diaspora have anti-America sentiments, and do you see that changing in the near future?
Yes. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Yes, I'll say yes.
Can you
but
explain what that
Yeah, I don't understand. By diaspora, do they mean like African diaspora having anti-American?
No, like the African diaspora. It was that.
Yeah.
Do we? Most black people in the African diaspora have.
Right.
I don't see that.
That's what I thought I heard.
And then they taught you, or you grew up having a negative view
of like the U.S.
in the United States that are black.
Oh, so people that have
people who are from the United States who are black. Did you grow up in a culture that looked at them negative?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll say no. I'll say no personally.
It was a 50-50. Yeah. It was a 50-50. Yeah, I'll make it real quick. It was a 50-50 because I had a friend. I don't know if I should switch on him, but fuck it. I had some friends who were Black American, and they'll date, certain people from the Latina culture, and there were people from the Latina culture that wouldn't want to date Black Americans because they just thought and the weird thing about it, the dude was like a scholar. That's the shit that fucked me up. But he dressed hood, but he was a scholar.
Some of this shit I had no idea about on some of this stuff.
Can I try something
real quick?
I want to see if like everybody can just give a quick yes or no, because I know everybody's from all different types of cultures in this room. And I'm kind of curious, because for me it's no, for you it's yes, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Can we get like a consensus just to see like what the room says yes, no, yes?
You like for me, like anti-American, like throughout the Black diaspora.
It was weird. It was weird. I'll say real quick. So it was like we were both black. He was Black American, but I was Black Latino, and it was weird because when they saw us together, they gave me like this weird pass because I spoke Spanish. So he was like, "Oh, hey, you black, but you're not that kind of black. So you got a pass." But my homeboy went through it. Yeah. So I was a passable black. That could speak Spanish to them. So it does happen.
No.
Go ahead, because I'm trying to get the question.
For me, you say anti-American or anti-black? Anti-American. No, I grew up very conservative. Like my household was very pro-American because I had a lot of people in the military, like Marines or people like that.
Okay, wait. Can I say something real quick? That is kind of confusing for me to answer because when you grow up in America, coming from a family that is from the West Indies, they like to say that you are not from the West Indies because they gave birth to you in America. So that's a little bit confusing, and that should be,
you're not a real Haitian.
I am very much Jamaican. There's no question. I'm not. That's not even. I'm not.
I was born here, but like you're not.
Yeah. So it's hard to answer that. It's hard to answer that question as a person that grew up that way because in the house, I'm calling my forehead forehead. When I go to school and say I have a migraine, I say my forehead hurts, and they're like, "What the fuck is a forehead?" And then I say forehead. I have a headache.
Like my movie screen hurts.
Right. And so like it's hard to answer that question. In some ways, yes, it was like you are not of this. This is not your home, really. Like I remember being in kindergarten and telling my mother that I wished I was white. Why did I say that? It's because I grew up with thick locks, dreads, okay? Damn. Like shooting. I look like Jay-Z at 3 and 4 years old. When I was younger. And so like going to school that way, yeah, I was made fun of. So I wished I fit in. Now that I know the history and time allowed itself to teach me some things, and obviously I'm going to take some interest and blah, 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 I know better. And so my dad always told me, no, you're a Black African queen. You are beautiful. Like you are it. You're that girl. You know what I'm saying? So I had that at home, but then I had to go to school. So like it was weird. I don't know how to answer that question.
I'm Native American. My grandfather was Seminole, And my grandmother was Jamaican. That's on my father's side. On my mother's side, I have a yeah. On my mother's side, I have a grandmother that's 98, 99 years old now. Her parents, her father was a person that owned slaves, and her mother was enslaved. So I have a grandmother, great grandmother, who is still alive today. She's the byproduct of that. And then I've got family through Puerto Rico, through the way of the Caribbean islands. But basically, my grandfather was Native American from Seminole, and they told the Seminole people that now you're African. So for him, everybody was a foreigner. Mm-hmm. And in terms of anti-American, a little bit, because my grandfather was familiar with Malcolm X, was very pro-black, but also felt like, you're on my land. I'm only here to support you because we look the same, but we don't have the same story. So there's a little bit of anti-American that I grew up with, but still understanding that, like, you guys got brought here, and so we still understand your plight because we had to go through it with you.
This one's a little bit different. When it comes to where the direction of movie genre is, like Afro-surrealism, with films and shows like Sinners, Get Out in Atlanta, do you think there's enough representation of black writers, directors, and actors in media and entertainment?
We need more. Yeah, we need more.
Absolutely
we
not.
need more.
Absolutely.
We don't own it.
We need more.
Okay, can I say something real quick? Wait. You know, every time we have one, right?
Yes.
And this is where the reparation idea comes from in the movement, is that, like, it's just like they did with Black Wall Street. Like, we had Lovecraft Country. They canceled it. We had what was it? Watchmen. Canceled it, right? American Gods, right? And then they canceled it. So every time, us as black creators, we get something moving that shows us in this way. They do their best to deplatform us, but I feel like we need more of it. Just keep going for it. Right now, YouTube's the new TV.
Yep.
YouTube's the new TV. That's the new Hollywood.
And this is where I was gonna piggyback off what you're saying. A lot of the opportunity is like, I look at it like a double-edged sword, not a double-edged sword, but we could change it. We could do alchemy. Like, the tech we got now, we can connect and do the things that we're talking about and repair the things that we can self-determine and do that for real. There's a lot of excuses, but there's also a lot of access and information that we could start to really connect and make it happen for real. Because I see it, and I know we all see it. It's just fishing through all that pain and trauma and getting to that connecting point. All the sectors of civilization that we can learn from these institutions, if it's entertainment, education, transportation, chain supply, real estate, we all get together and just start combining and making that gumbo something different that we can all eat off of.
Another thing too, to piggyback what you're saying too, as far as, like, having this thing with media and in Hollywood, like you said, we need more, but at the same time, we don't have to run through white acceptance to get them to tell our stories. Exactly. How are we going to go to Hollywood, tell our story? We could have our own thing. This jersey right now is very meaningful to me because it's the National Negro League. That means that black baseball team had their own players.
Exactly.
And they had their own thing before they went to the major leagues. Yeah. So we had our own thing. Even with the Harlem Globetrotter Brothers, we had our own thing before we went to the NBA. Shit, even with N1 basketball team, we had our own thing. And they ran to us to get our own thing. So we could do our own thing. We don't have to run to them because, remember, like you said, we keep the culture high. With the young folks or whatever case may be, and black folk, we determine what's high with the slang, the clothes, the music. We don't have to go to them. They come to us to determine what's hot. So we don't have to, like, run to them for our acceptance of what the case may be. And there's a saying I keep hearing too, that from the old, for that ice cold is colder, what the case may be, that they run through white folks to think that their shit is better.
But
man, we don't have to go to them.
Before they had this
system,
I'll say this. Let me say one thing. Before they had this system, it was no money. It was people that had to come up with this stuff. What you think they was doing in Egypt and stuff like that?
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Piggybacking off of all y'all.
Go ahead.
We've always had our own. We've done our own. I said it to my point earlier. All it is funding. At the end of the day, like, you know what I'm saying? I guess Ryan Coogler with the Sinners, he made a smart deal where he thought that, or the studio thought that he wouldn't make a certain benchmark to be able to own his own rights, and he actually surpassed it. And our community showed up for this like movie, went time and time again. I went twice to see this movie on my own. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a representation, and even all of the metaphors that were in the movie, Warner Brothers did not think it was going to happen, and now they're trying to make a movie without him. So again, like what we've been doing, like with Target, like that means we now need to coding saying like we need to not support whatever movie because Michael B. Jordan was like, I'm not getting down if Ryan Coogler's not in it. So that's getting behind that kind of situation. But all it is ever is funding. We can make anything happen, and we do usually. Again,
we need patience.
It's about the fear of infiltration and not being persecuted, and anything that we build to stop being teared down. Like that's essentially what it is.
Discipline. And you know, I feel in 2025 we have to be cognizant that we are in an ever-changing time. We're in an ever-changing economy, right? They're automating free labor with AI, but you can't AI melanin. You can't AI blackness. You can't AI soul, right? The number one commodity of the future is going to be creativity. Who are the most creative people in the world? Who are the most creative people in the world? And so it's like, as we go forward and we do what we're doing, like what Ryan Coogler is doing, we got to continue creating, and we got to realize we are the prize. We are the forefront. We can't sell our creativity. We can't let people own our image and likenesses. We can't let people own our IPs. We own our IPs. We own our image and likeness. And no matter what platform it's on, I don't care if it's TikTok. I don't care if it's YouTube. I don't care if it's DirecTV.
Can I just say... we can display this for free. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right. Like, yes, it's about, the funding, but if we are all in unison, we can display this for free.
Exactly. Yes.
And people can form. They see it. They see the movement. That's already a thing. But we can display this for free. You understand? So I disagree a little bit about it's about the funding. Like, we can do it.
It's
about consistency and what you say?
Discipline.
That's it. And that's all it's about.
And recognizing that our creativity is the value. What connects to value is money. So that's the money. Right. The money is our creativity. The money is our IP. The money is our image and likeness. What we need to do is blow it up and protect it. Because what they're doing right now is studying our image and likeness, studying our IPs, and that's what they're literally trying to AI, right?
They've been doing that.
But they can't.
We have to be educated in the business, right? At the end of the day, there's legalese and legal language that we don't know and that we need to learn. Exactly. Just like we're going on to these platforms to learn how to make something, how to cook something, how to style ourselves, how to do our hair, we need to understand legalese. It's a whole nother language so that when a contract comes in front of us, whether we're musicians, athletes, doctors, knowing what your contract looks like and how to negotiate your contract, that's part of it, right? He was able to negotiate his contract because he understood like what's going on. Right. We have to understand that. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Fanbase. Fanbase is the only black-owned social media platform out there, and enough people are not linking onto it. Why? Because it's small. Oh, you still doing that little thing? Right? We have that mentality when we should be jumping on board with Fanbase because you get paid to be on there just like any other platform. They've learned the game. So we have to trust in our businesses and we have to mind our businesses.
Nice. Makes sense. All right, guys, we're going to start wrapping it up. We're definitely going to have a part 3. Is there anything else? Is there anything you want to say about the Reparations Task Force Equity Alliance?
No, I mean, the one last thing I'll say is, just like Tata mentioned, this is partially funded by the Reparations Task Force of Boston, because these conversations are needed. I was tasked with bringing more awareness to the fact that we even have a Reparations Task Force in Boston. Not everybody knows, right? And so if you don't know, now you know. I mean, you can find them in Boston. I mean, go to the boiler building. I forgot the name of it. Boiling. Yeah, Bruce Boiling.
We'll put it in in the show notes.
Yes, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, they have community meetings. We have community meetings like twice a month. You know,
late night, so people can make it.
Yeah, it is at night. It is at night. It's like 6 to 8.
Jump in contact if people want to get involved.
Oh, my contact?
If people want to get involved.
Yeah. You can email me at borderlinebookings@gmail.com. You can also follow me at Terry Borderline on all platforms. I'm Googleable. I am chat GPTable. I hate that I have to say that. You can find me, right? You can find me. But yeah, just know that, the Reparations Task Force is here right now. Let's have these conversations. Let's get the specifics. Let's get the tangibles out. If you're hurt, let's heal, because it's real time. It's happening right now. It's not fake. It's not a fever dream. It's not a fantasy. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? It's our time. And so I just want to say thank you guys for coming here and joining us and having these discussions.
Thank you for having us.
Recognizing your power, using your power, and know that, as I said, this is the first time Boston has ever had a reparations task force in its history. It's unprecedented, and so this is a historical conversation. This will be looked at decades, if not hundreds of years from now. Like, what were they doing about this? And so I thank you guys for having the bravery, the courage, the vulnerability, and the transparency to share your souls and your minds with us today.
Show and Tell Boston, and that's a wrap.